You are now watching I Shot Him 6 Times YouTube horror movie channel.
I shot him 6 times! What's going on, horror fanatics? Welcome to I Shot Him 6 Times YouTube horror movie channel. As you know, I'm your host and creator of the channel, Marcus. If you have not done so already, please shoot this video a like. It helps out with the YouTube algorithm a ton. As well as if you're a new viewer to this channel, please shoot that subscribe button as well as that notification icon so you get all the latest content updates to the channel. Well, everyone, the moment we have been waiting for has finally arrived. Scream 6 is finally here, and to a resounding $67.1 million opening at the box office, which has doubled its projected earnings and is the most for the franchise in its history of opening at the box office when you count nationally and internationally combined, showing that even without its mainstay franchise queen, Neve Campbell as Sidney Prescott, it can perform exceptionally well without her presence, even if that's something we don't want to hear. This film, in my opinion, lived up to a decent degree of the hype about it being quote-unquote different and delivered a fast-paced, brutal, fun time for the fans to enjoy. In this video, I'll be giving y'all my spoiler review for Scream 6 and sharing my pros and cons and overall assessment of the film. We start off with the opening sequence of the film, in which, in my opinion, this is the second best opening to a Scream film that we have gotten. That's just my opinion, but I really enjoyed this opening scene. Thought it was really creatively different. Thought it was fresh. I thought it was really exciting to see what direction they went with this opening scene. But we start off with the opening sequence of the film, where we are introduced to Samara Weaving's character, Laura, who is seen having some drinks at a bar, seemingly waiting on a companion to arrive. Laura then receives said phone call from the companion whose name is Reggie. During the conversation, we get revealed that Laura is a film study professor at Blackmore University, where 3 out of our 4 core characters, main characters from Scream 5, and Samantha Carpenter, Tara Carpenter, Chad Meeks Martin, and Mindy Meeks Martin reside as well, which ties into the story of the film. Reggie then tells Laura that he is lost, and he cannot find the bar that Laura is at, so Laura steps outside to further assist Reggie in meeting her. Reggie then tells Laura that he is in the same alleyway as her, and is being chased by someone with a knife, prompting Laura to walk further into the alley, attempting to help him. But as Laura would find out, this wasn't Reggie on the phone that she was speaking to. This was Ghostface, who proceeds to berate her about being a film study professor who teaches about slashers, but yet she still walks into a dark alleyway alone, which in my opinion was not only a rightful call out, but this is something that the Scream franchise has always done. Called out these ridiculous horror tropes that these characters seem to do in these horror movies. After being distracted by partygoers walking by, Ghostface sneaks up on Laura, brutally carving her up until her inevitable demise was complete. But that's not all, folks. Now, before we move on, I will say this is something that a lot of us predicted going into Scream 6, that Samara Weaving's character, Laura, would be the opening scene kill, and a lot of us predicted that right. However, I'm not going to lie, I was actually, towards the tail end before the movie came out, I was kind of leaning towards the fact that she might be a Mackenzie. Obviously, we got that poster art that showed the TV clipping of the Mackenzie family murders, them being stabbed brutally, and I said that being that, Liv Mackenzie and this character, Laura, they share some very facial similarities, the actresses, Samara Weaving and Sonia Ben Omar, I said that I would like to see Laura be a Mackenzie and maybe have a bigger role in this film. However, that is not what we got. We got the predicted opening scene kill for Samara Weaving, and I'm not upset about it, but I do kind of wish she would have had a little bit more run in this film. But as I said before I went on my spew about Samara not being in this movie as much as I'd like, that is not all, folks. For the first time in the history of Scream, Ghostface is revealed in the opening scene of the movie, as Tony Revolori's character, Jason Carvey, is revealed to be Ghostface, who kills Laura as he takes off his mask, places a knife and costume in his book bag, and walks away. But again, that's not all, folks. We see Jason walking where he runs into one of our main characters, Tara Carpenter. Jason tries to convince Tara to invite her sister Sam to the frat party everybody seems to be going to, but she shoots his request down, saying Sam wouldn't be caught dead at a frat party, which Jason replies, There's a first time for everything. That line holds meaning. We'll discuss in a second. We then see Jason arrive home where he calls out for his boyfriend Greg. Now, before I proceed into the details of the scene, I do want to say that was a really nice touch for them to put Jason Takes Manhattan on Jason's TV screen when he gets home. As obviously this character, Jason Carvey, is living in New York and he turned out to be a Ghostface killer. And obviously Jason Voorhees, in the 8th installment of the Friday the 13th franchise, his character went to take over New York City by killing a bunch of people in that film. So again, that was really a nice reference and a nice touch that Radio Silence put into this film. But again, we see Jason arrive at his house where he calls out for his boyfriend Greg, who is not seen to be home. Jason then goes to proceed to place the mask that he used to kill Laura on a mannequin in a closet that him and Greg have, where you see stab posters in the background and a second mask next to his mask, which implies that not only is Greg also a Ghostface killer, but these two are really big stab fanatics. Jason then gets a call from Greg, who is using the Ghostface voice modulator, something him and Jason agreed to not use on one another. It's then revealed Jason and Greg are planning to finish Richie Kirsch's movie, Sam's ex-boyfriend and Ghostface killer in Scream 5. They are planning to finish Richie's movie by going to that frat party to kill Samantha and Tara. However, Jason then finds out after a game of warm or cold that he's not talking to Greg, as he finds Greg's dismembered body in the refrigerator, as a different Ghostface appears behind Jason and proceeds to stab him and slice and dice before Jason says, "We have to finish the movie," to which this Ghostface replies, "Who gives a fuck about the movies?" before the credits roll into the intro. Again, for me, this is my second favorite opening scene to a Scream film. I thought this was really well executed, really well done creatively, being different, having a Ghostface killer reveal themselves in the opening scene to only be killed by another Ghostface killer who seems to know what they were up to. Again, really, really nice execution on the opening scene for Scream 6. Love it. We then move on to the therapy session scene between Samantha Carpenter and Dr. Christopher Stone, to where we get some dialogue about basically Samantha, her move to New York. You hear Dr. Christopher Stone tell her that I want to know more about you. It seems like Samantha hasn't really been full on opening up to this doctor. He asks her how the meds are working, which she goes on to say that they are working pretty good. They're not, she's not seeing things that she's not supposed to be seeing, which is a nod to seeing her father, Billy Loomis, in Scream 5. Now, he does get her to open up and tell her about basically the events that happened in Scream 5. She tells him how Richie basically was her boyfriend who tried to kill her because he idolized her father, Billy. She reveals to him that she's Billy Loomis's daughter, the Ghostface killer in the original Stab and in the original Scream. All that stuff, to where you see Dr. Christopher Stone kind of get a little flustered and then tell Samantha he is not equipped to deal with this type of case, this type of patient, etc. And this was actually more stemming from after Samantha tells him that stabbing Richie and the reason why she is there at this therapy session is because it felt right to kill Richie. I thought that piece of dialogue was really, really fascinating, and it actually does play in not in just to the middle of the movie, but the ending of the movie for the Samantha Carpenter character as well. Now, I will also say, if you have watched Scream 6, you know that the Dr. Christopher Stone character does not make it. He is used as a pawn to further frame Samantha Carpenter. And speaking of Samantha Carpenter being framed, let's move on to the next part of the video where we talk about the plot of the story and the framing of Samantha Carpenter. We now move on to the plot of Scream 6, which is not only about revenge, but about framing Samantha Carpenter. Now, why is Samantha Carpenter being framed? Well, that's because somebody who is connected to Richie Kirsch is trying to frame Samantha for not only the murders that are starting to take place in New York City, but as well as the Woodsboro murders, as there was a social media post created by said Ghostface killer who states that Samantha Carpenter framed framed Richie Curse and framed Amber Freeman for the murders in Woodsboro, and that she is operating as a mastermind Ghostface. Now, what I really enjoyed about this plot for Samantha Carpenter's character is that it is really relatable. As somebody like myself, if you're a viewer of this channel and you watch my videos, then you know that I am a believer of that. You know that I'm a believer that Samantha Carpenter is operating as a mastermind Ghostface while also trying to play victim within these films. So the fact that they decided to go in this direction in terms of her story arc, I thought was really interesting, and I thought it was a really nice touch. But what was also an even better touch, in my opinion, was the fact we were all trying to wonder, how is Samantha connected to all these Ghostface killers? That map that we got, that poster map that showed Samantha is somehow connected to all these killers. Well, they kind of explained that within the movie by dropping off, by at each crime scene, Ghostface would drop off a mask that was connected to a previous Ghostface killer. The first scene was Richie Kirsch's mask. Then obviously we get more masks show up, Roman Bridger, so on and so forth. So I thought that that was a really nice touch for them to do that, because it was an homage to Scream 3. Keep in mind, in Scream 3, Roman Bridger was dropping off pictures of his mother Maureen at the end of every attack or every kill scene to show us that whoever this killer is connected to Maureen. So I thought that that's something that they really did well with the dropping off of each mask to previous Ghostface killers, showing that this is a connection to Samantha Carpenter. So again, another part of Scream 6, in my opinion, that was really well executed and really enjoyable. We now move on to our core four main characters: Samantha Carpenter, Tara Carpenter, Chad Meeks Martin, and Mindy Meeks Martin, and their character development in Scream 6. And this was something that I thought was a really high point in this film. The character development for each of these characters, in my opinion, was spot on. This is something that we have talked about leading into this film, because that's something we did not really get in Scream 5. We didn't get enough character development from these characters enough to fall in love with them. Now, I'm not going to sit there and say I have fallen in love with these characters, but I will say this: Scream 6 has really made me like these new characters a lot. You get the character development with Tara Carpenter, that, you know, and Samantha, their relationship is kind of in flux because Samantha won't let Tara go, basically be an adult. She won't, you know, basically stop coddling her and stop babying her. We get that aspect, which I thought was really good, especially in terms of their storytelling for their relationship. We get Chad Meeks Martin, who in my opinion was, you know, even better than he was in Scream 5. I'm a big fan of Chad. I think that his character showed a lot more, how can I say this? He showed a lot more of less jock in him. In Scream 5, I felt like you can tell that he was definitely a jock type of character. In Scream 5, he was actually more of a protector, kind of like that Dewey Riley. He was that glue that kept the core four together. And he really, really shined in those moments, in my opinion, especially when they were being attacked by Ghostface. Him stepping up and, you know, being the first one to lay a hand on Ghostface. He definitely gave me that Dewey Riley protector of the characters type vibe. And I felt like, you know, this was really good for his character. This is something that a lot of us talked about, that we feel he can be a Dewey Riley character. And in my opinion, in Scream 6, he definitely took that next step as being the next Dewey Riley, if that's what you want to say, in the Scream franchise. I thought that that character, Chad Meeks Martin, really flourished in the character development that we got of him, as well as the relationship between him and Tara Carpenter's character. No, they did a really good job making their romance kind of simmer. You've seen it, you know, slowly but surely started to happen. And then obviously Chad took his shot in the hallway scene when they're in the shrine. He took his shot, he kisses her, which kind of is like a budding romance now, if you want to say, like the new Gale Weathers and the new Dewey Riley. So again, I thought that that aspect of that relationship between Tara and Chad was really well executed as well. Another thing that I liked in terms of Mindy Meeks Martin's character is the fact that you can still see she's a horror fan, but she's a lot more reserved in this film. She is a lot more reserved. She's a lot more on pins and needles, if you will. she's not all bubbly and cheery like she was in Scream 5. She is definitely a lot more serious in this film. Another thing to touch on about Mindy Meeks Martin is she actually got the killers right this time. Something that when she was giving her spew, the whole spew dialogue about the rules, we got to go through the rules. She called that out about herself in Scream 5. She didn't get the killers right. So this was her trying to redeem herself. And she did a really good job, as she did redeem herself in this film. Now, what was different about Scream 6 in terms of our main characters returning is that all of our main core returning characters actually lived at the end. This was not the same as what we got in Scream 2, Wes Craven's Scream 2. As if you remember, we had Randy, Sidney, Gail, and Dewey returning, but only Sidney, Gail, and Dewey survived. Randy, who is obviously the twins' uncle, he died. So in this film, what was different is that they actually kept both Meek's characters intact. They didn't kill them off, which, in my opinion, I thought was a really nice move, especially in terms of getting different. If you want to, set yourself apart in so many ways from Wes Craven's version of Scream 2, then this is one of the ways you can do it. By keeping all your core four remaining characters intact, letting us like them a lot in this film, and then maybe in the next film, you kill one or two of them off. If they're going to kill them off, they got to make it hurt. So in this film, they knew that they had to develop these characters just enough for us to like them and want them back, only to subsequently kill them later on in the franchise. So again, the core four development, I thought, was a really high spot of this movie. We got to like these characters a lot, in my opinion. Samantha Carpenter's character definitely took a big step up from Scream 5. A lot of people criticize Melissa Barrera for her performance in Scream 5. I thought in this one, she hit the nail on the head. I thought that she was actually quite fucking phenomenal. We now move on to Josh Segarra's character, Danny Brackett, quote unquote the secret, as I like to call him. And the reason why I call him the secret is because we get revealed that for the 6 months that Samantha and Tara has arrived in New York, that Samantha has actually been seeing Danny Brackett, which is something that she was keeping secret from the rest of the gang. She did not tell anybody that she was seeing Danny, for the simple fact that she was playing off that she didn't want no real human contact after what happened with her and Richie. Now, why this is somewhat hypocritical of Samantha to a degree and kind of odd is because she was making a whole hoopla about Tara not accepting, the events of Woodsboro and not handling it in a way that Samantha felt like she should. Like, she felt like Tara should be basically grieving a lot more. And that wasn't the case with Tara. Tara was ready to move on with her life. Now, why that is hypocritical of Sam to be that way with Tara in that regard is because Samantha quickly moved on with her life as well. As soon as she got to New York, she hooks up with this guy after just being in a relationship and almost being killed by her ex-boyfriend. So that's something that I did really find odd about the Samantha Carpenter character in this film, is obviously she's kind of being hypocritical to her sister when she clearly has moved on quickly herself to a new companion, which is something that I did not expect in this movie. I did not expect to see that, and I think it is kind of odd that she would do that given that her ex-boyfriend just tried to kill her, and she's moving to a new state where she knows nobody and anybody could be a Ghostface killer. So again, this was a sequence in the movie or at least a storyline in the movie, the relationship between Danny and Samantha, that I felt was kind of odd. But in terms of Danny the character, I actually like Danny. I thought that he was supposed to be everything that Derek was supposed to be for Sidney in Scream 2. He was understanding when Samantha told him to back up, he backed up. This was different from Derek. Even though we did see Derek eventually give Sidney her space, he tried to fight it, which is something we did not really see from Danny in this film. Now, as much as I like the Danny Brackett character, I will say this, and I'm going to talk about it in future videos. I think Danny could be an undercover Ghostface that was not revealed in Scream 6. Again, we'll save that for a future video. Okay, everyone, so we now move on to Kirby Reed, the massive red herring. Now, guys, I'm not going to lie to y'all. I was quite disappointed with Kirby Reed's return, who is obviously, as we know, portrayed by Hayden Panettiere. I was really underwhelmed with this return. I thought that this character would have be more of a motivational, type of character, something like, kind of Sydney was in Scream 5 to a degree, kind of like that protector. And that's not what we got from Kirby Reed in Scream 6. Not what we got at all. However, what we did get out of this character is a massive, massive red herring and a potential Ghostface who is not revealed in the film. Now, you guys know that I was on the Kirby Reed for Ghostface train in Scream 6. I thought that they were definitely hinting at that she could be a Ghostface killer in this film, and I think she still could be, but revealed in a later film. Again, I think that they made her look like a massive red herring. And when you really watch this movie more times than once or twice, I've watched it 4 times. When you really break down this movie, in my opinion, I think you can make a case that not only Kirby Reed, but other people are involved as Ghostface killers in this film that did not get revealed. So again, I think Kirby Reed was portrayed as a massive red herring, and they left the door open potentially for this character to be revealed as a Ghostface killer in future installments. Again, I was really underwhelmed with the return of Kirby Reed. I expected a little bit more, if not a lot more, out of this character, especially from a motivational standpoint. But we got what we got. And I'm not going to lie, I am fascinated to see if Hayden Panettiere is going to return as Kirby Reed for Scream 7, because if she does, then again, I think they set it up for her character to be revealed as a Ghostface mastermind in Scream 7 or possibly in another Scream film if Radio Silence decides to do more than just this trilogy. We now move on to Team Loomis, the return of Billy Loomis. Now, a lot of us were wondering leading into the film, and obviously the red carpet premiere kind of gave it away, that Skeet Ulrich was going to be in Scream 6. We were all speculating whether he was going to reprise his role as the hallucination of Billy Loomis, Samantha Carpenter's father, in this film. And that's obviously what we got. Now, I do want to point out something that you guys will notice that whenever Samantha is dealing with Ghostface, that seems to be the only time Billy surfaces. At least from what we've seen in Scream 5 and Scream 6, whenever she is in times of distress and it happens to be dealing with Ghostface killers coming after her, that's when we see the hallucinations of Billy Loomis come into play. But what's really fascinating about this dialogue that we get from Billy is that a lot of us like to say as fans that Stu Macher was the more fun of the killers between him and Billy. And I'm not arguing that fact. I do believe that Stu Macher was the more fun killer out of the two. He even goes on to say it was fun in referencing to, killing, Sydney's mother and everybody else and all that stuff. But in this film, in Scream 6, to me, they definitely showed a fun side of Billy Loomis that I don't think we've ever seen before. And the reason why I say that is because when Samantha walks up to his case and sees his mannequin with his costume and his robe and all that, you see Billy appear and he comes on and he says, "Oh fuck yeah, like get a load of this place. Oh, this place ain't this place fucking cool." And you hear Samantha say fuck no and he says fuck yes. Come on, Sam. Me and you together again, Team Loomis. Let's get ready to carve up some more or slash up some more motherfuckers. To me, that is showing a side of Billy Loomis actually relishing in him being a murderer more than we got in Scream 1996. And obviously, we know the reason why Billy killed in Scream 1996 was revenge because of what Maureen Prescott did to his family, so on and so forth. But we never really got the sense that this was fun for Billy. In this film, with this dialogue, with this hallucination, you get the sense that killing was fun for Billy. It wasn't just about the motive of the Maureen Prescott story. It was about the fact that he just enjoyed being a killer. And in my opinion, the events that would happen to Marine only set him off and gave him a reason to act on his intuitions and his want to be a killer. Again, that's just my take on it, but I really found this dialogue fascinating because it showed Billy Loomis in a light that we have not seen him before as this killer who just he loves murder. He has bloodlust. To me, we didn't see that in Scream 96, and in Scream 6, I thought that was a really nice touch for them to add that element to the Billy Loomis character. We now move on to Gale Weathers' role, her surviving, and the lesser role of the stab films in Scream 6. Now, before we get on to Gale, I'm going to talk about the stab films and the Wrongly Accused Broadway musical that we got advertised into the advertisement, into the promotion of Scream 6. A lot of us were expecting that we were going to get a Broadway musical titled Wrongly Accused. A lot of us even thought that we might even get a new stab film. However, in the scene where Jenna Ortega's character Samantha Carpenter and Gale Weathers are outside a police station and Gale is trying to interview them, asking them questions about these new Ghostface attacks, these new Ghostface killings, you hear Tara Carpenter say, "We heard you couldn't sell the rights to the movies, to the stab movies." That's what she was referring to. To which Gale Weathers replies, "It's all about true crime drama right now. The studios basically don't want that type of, content right at this point in time." So the reason why we didn't get anything stab, no new stab movie, no Wrongly Accused musical, none of that, is because nobody wanted to touch it. Not even with a brandly new story from Scream 5 or Stab 5, whatever you want to call it. Studios, nobody wanted to touch it. So that's why we did not get any stab movie or musical in this film. And in my opinion, I thought that was a nice diversion. I think it is time to get away from the stab films within the Scream movie. So this was a nice swerve in direction by Radio Silence, and it's something that I personally did not expect. I did expect to see the Wrongly Accused Broadway musical. But again, another nice swerve in direction, being creative, being different from Radio Silence, not following in the same footsteps as Wes Craven and carving out their own path by not having a stab film be in a Scream film. I thought that was a really nice touch. Now, let's move on to Gale Weathers' character, her role in her surviving. Now, we first get introduced in Scream 6 to Gale Weathers outside of the police station where all the reporters are trying to interview Samantha and Tara. We see Gale Weathers ask Samantha Carpenter and Tara, "Do you guys think that you're the reason why these new Ghostface killings are happening?" To where we get a really nice callback of Samantha Carpenter trying to punch Gale, but Gale swerves this punch. Obviously, this is a callback to Sidney Prescott punching her within the first two films. After swerving Samantha's punch, you see Gale smile saying, "Nice try, sweetie, but I've been in this dance before." And then directly after that, Tara punches her in the face. And Gale just has this look of shock on her face. I thought that was one of the most fun moments within the movie. A really nice callback to Scream 1996 and Scream 2 when Sidney Prescott punches Gale Weathers in the face. So that was definitely a nice touch. Now, let's get into the role of Gale Weathers. I'm not going to lie to you. I thought this story was going to feature more Gale Weathers for the simple fact is we got the books, the Scream LA fan experience. They showcased the books of Gale Weathers writing about all the Ghostface killings, all that stuff. We got the reveal that she wrote a book about the events that happened in Scream 5, all that good stuff. But they didn't feature her story as much as I thought, which in my opinion was the right move. Even though Courtney Cox was an executive producer on this film, I thought that was a right choice to kind of keep Gale in the background, much like she was in Scream 5. However, unlike in Scream 5, because we just really didn't get much from her character, she was effective in Scream 6. She is the one who found the Ghostface shrine before Kirby, Detective Bailey, anybody could find that shrine. Gale is the one who found the Ghostface shrine. So it wasn't like her character was in the background doing nothing. She was still being Gale Weathers. Now, another thing that's interesting about Gale Weathers in this film, and I told y'all this, was that the guy that we see in her house that gets thrown through the bookcase was her boyfriend, Brooks. I've said it in countless videos. I did not know who this character Brooks is supposed to be. Maybe he's just a side character. Maybe he gets 1 or 2 scenes, what have you, etc. I did not know it was Brooks who was going to be her boyfriend. But I did say that whoever was in that house with her was Gail's boyfriend by the way he answered the phone. Basically saying, it's for you, which tells you that that person lived there with Gail. And that had to be a companion. And it was really surprising to see that Gail has moved on so fast with somebody new, given the events of Dewey's death literally happened 1 year ago, you know, from the pickup of this film. Literally, Dewey just died 1 year ago, and you're already mingling with somebody new. I felt that that was kind of foul for the character. I could have did without, that whole having a new boyfriend for the character. I get it. They're trying to make it seem like she's trying to move on and all that stuff. But again, I really didn't like this aspect for Gail Weathers' role in this film. I didn't like that at all. I didn't like that she had a new boyfriend, so soon. I can see if it was maybe 2 or 3 years after the events of Scream 5, then that's understandable. But directly a year after your husband gets killed in his hometown, yeah, just having a new boyfriend thing did not sit well with me. Now, let's get on to the part of Gail surviving. Now, you guys know I am the one who basically started the hashtag Down Goes Weathers movement. I have been the one saying that Gail Weathers will die in Scream 6. Well, I was proved wrong, at least for the time being. We don't know if Scream 7 is going to pick up directly after the events of Scream 6. That's something we'll have to wait to see. But we do know for a fact that Gail Weathers did survive. Even though it did look like she was going to die in that scene, you did hear the paramedics say, we have a weak pulse. We have to get her to the hospital, basically, and all that stuff. And then at the end, you hear that she did, survive and all that stuff. So again, I am really surprised that her character did survive in this film. I did not expect that to happen. I thought that they were kind of going to do an anthology for the OG3 to where you kill all 3 of them or 2 of the 3 off. I said this before about Scream 5 featuring Dewey's story more. Gail, will be featured more in 6, and then Sydney in 7. However, this seems to not be the case. Gail Weathers has survived. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens with this character going forward, and if she will even be in the next Scream film that we get coming from Radio Silence in Scream 7. We now move on to Ending Explain Part 1, Richie's Shrine and the Killer Reveal. It is revealed at the end of Scream 6 that not only do we have 2 Ghostface killers, but we actually have 3 Ghostface killers. This is something that we kind of predicted and talked about leading into the film, and we actually got it. As Detective Wayne Bailey, Ethan Landry, and Quinn Bailey are revealed as the Ghostface killers at the end of Scream 6. Now, what's interesting about their reveal is that they are the family of Scream 5 killer Richie Kirsch. And their whole point of being is revenge against Samantha Carpenter for killing Richie. Now, this is obviously very reminiscent to Scream 2's storyline with Mrs. Loomis. What's also interesting, though, is the fact that Ethan was wearing Mrs. Loomis's mask, and Quinn was supposedly wearing Stu Macher's mask. Now, another thing that I have to take note of here as well is that both of these killers, in Ethan and Quinn, have claimed stabbings or murders that, in my opinion, they did not do. Quinn claims she stabbed Gail. Ethan claims he stabbed Chad. In my opinion, I do not think that is true. And in later videos, I'm going to just break it down and discuss why I believe that not to be true. However, let's stick on these 3 killers here. I will say this. I kind of did already predict Jack Champion's character, Ethan Landry, being the Ghostface. I told you guys that he was just giving me massive Stu Macher vibes. And in so many ways, he kind of didn't disappoint. In so many ways, he was like a low-budget Stu Macher, in my opinion. And he even had the TV, that Stu's TV, dropped on his head. Which, I'm not going to lie, I do think that that was them kind of poking fun at fans like myself who believe Stu Macher to be alive. However, I'm going to do future videos explaining why Scream 6 kind of helped our theories about why Stu Macher is alive. So again, we're going to touch on that in a later video. But I definitely did get some low budget Stu Macher vibes from Jack Champion's character Ethan Landry, especially in terms of his wild side. You can even hear him kind of homage Stu Macher's line in Scream 1 when Stu says, "I always had a thing for you, Sid." Ethan tells Tara, "I always wanted to stick something in you, Tara." I definitely caught that as some type of subtle homage to Stu Macher's character. And we do have to keep in mind that Jack Champion did follow Matthew Lillard on Twitter, which kind of tells me that he was kind of taking, some influence from how Matthew Lillard played the Stu Macher role. Now, let's get to Detective Bailey. I will say this, I do believe that Detective Bailey is the one who did most of the killing in this film. I don't believe that his kids really had much to do with the actual killings. And the reason why I believe that is because he was the one with the evidence. We found out that the shrine wasn't props. They was actual evidence from the actual crimes of Ghostface. That was not props like I thought it was. You guys out there who projected it was evidence, you turned out to be spot on. You even got the line from Gail Weathers saying cops like a lot of money and a lot of evidence goes missing. So again, that was something that they definitely did play in here with, that was the fact that this cop, he was able to access all these pieces of evidence from all previous installments of the Scream slash Stab franchise, which I definitely thought was a even better touch than it being props from like a theater or a Broadway musical, etc. I'm not gonna lie, I think that the shrine actually being live actual evidence from the crime scenes is pretty fucking amazing in my opinion. But I do think that Wayne Bailey, the father, I think he's the one who committed most of the Ghostface killings because he's the one who would have had access to, you know, being able to plant evidence, right then and there. And he's going to be the first one on the scene because he's the cop on the case. You even hear Samantha later, earlier in the movie when he's interrogating Samantha and Tara, saying, "What is the chances that our roommate's dad, who is a cop, pulls our case?" You know, so again, I definitely do think that Detective Bailey was the one to do most of the killings in this film, as it would be a lot easier for him to plant evidence. And there's certain scenes in this film to where you can tell it's not Quinn or it's not Ethan's character because they just wouldn't have enough time to do such. Now, another thing to point on before we get to Richie's shrine is Quinn herself. Her death was a fake out scene. Earlier in the movie, it was made to believe that she died. I am not going to lie to you guys. I kind of figured out who was all three the killers, or two at least, well before the end of the movie. And in my opinion, in Quinn's dialogue, they gave it away far too soon. When she's talking to Tara and she's saying, "Oh yeah, my brother died," and all that stuff, even though she said it was a car accident, I kind of got the vibes already that nah, that has to have something to do with maybe Richie from Scream 5. I already got those vibes before Samantha got the first call and all that. Now, what further solidified that she was a ghost face for me is the scene in her bedroom where you can hear her on the phone with her father. You can hear her. She's talking, "You're the cop," and this and this and that. So you know she's talking to her father. How I knew she was Ghostface was because when Ghostface is standing in her room, he doesn't walk through the door. He's walking through the opposite side as if he was already pacing back and forth in that room, kind of waiting for a signal to go. That's what I took from that scene. And the fact that Ghostface was standing in her room and she doesn't even acknowledge it, like she doesn't feel a presence, she doesn't see, him standing there, that kind of gave it away for me that that was going to be a fake out scene and she was going to be revealed later on in the movie as alive and as a ghost face killer in this film. Now, as far as Quinn herself, she kind of reminds me of Amber Freeman. I'm not going to lie to you guys. She just kind of reminds me of, she's got a little sinister side to her, but she's a liar. She didn't do the things, or at least one of the things she claims she did. And that's stab Gail Weathers. And again, in a future video, I am going to explain why I believe such. But you can also make the same argument for Jack Champion's character, in my opinion, Ethan Landry. Both of these Ghostface killers, in my opinion, both lied about certain stabbings or killings that they claim they did that they didn't do. So, As far as them being Ghostface killers, they were okay. As far as the dad being a Ghostface killer, I liked him. I thought he was ruthless. I thought he was very aggressive. I thought he was very, very brutal. This is the most brutal Ghostface, in my opinion, we ever gotten. Even more so than Charlie Walker. And you guys know Charlie Walker's my boy. You know, I actually thought that Charlie Walker was going to be involved in this because of the whole Ghostface shrine. But obviously that's not the case. However, I do think that Detective Bailey committed most of the murders, and I liked the way he committed those murders. He was violent, he was ruthless, he was aggressive. So, out of the three Ghostface killers that we did get revealed as Richie's family, Detective Wayne Bailey was the best for me. Fake, bad fake tears and all, even though he was terrible in that scene, Dermont was. I did like him as a Ghostface killer in this film. Now let's talk about Richie's shrine. Guys, we all made speculatory comments leading into this film about who the shrine, of Ghostface costumes, all the evidence now that we know it's evidence. Whose shrine could that be? I've stated it could be Gail Weathers, being that she had the card to get in there. We obviously find out that's not the case. I thought it was Charlie Walker's as well. It could have been Charlie Walker's shrine because he's a massive Stab fan. So many rumors going into the film or speculatory points that were made about this shrine going into the film that I'm not going to lie. The fact that this was Richie Kirsch's shrine really surprised me, and I actually really enjoyed it a lot more because you got an in-depth look of how obsessed Richie was with the Stab franchises. You even see on the projector, he made his own fan film of a Stab movie. Now, whether that kill on the screen was real or not remains to be seen. I remember somebody asked, I think it was my buddy Destination Station, asked me, where's their mother in all this? Could that have been Richie's mother that was part of that fan film that was being killed on the projector? Maybe so. We don't. I don't have confirmation about that. You can only speculate about that. But the fact that the projector was Richie's fan film, and we did get like a little video of him talking, and the fact that this entire shrine was his, and his dad helped him build it, I'm not going to lie. I really liked that part of the ending. I really did. I thought that it helped elevate Richie's character as a Ghostface, because I'd like to think a lot of us kind of see him as a weak Ghostface. We kind of believe that he had Amber, if you believe Amber did most of the stuff she did in Scream 5. He made her do everything. He didn't really get his hands dirty. The fact that he has this entire shrine and all that, and he did a fan film and all that, shows you just how deep into this the character was, even more so than we thought. And in my opinion, I thought it was a really nice touch, not only for this movie, but for the character of Richie Kirsch, to kind of give him a little bit of elevation as a Ghostface killer, if you, the fan, want to elevate this character after seeing his deep involvement in the Stab, franchise, his obsession with it, and the fact that he even made his own fan film and all that good stuff. We now move on to Ending Explained Part 2, Sam embracing her true self and Tara's bloodlust revealed. Now, not only did we get 3 killer reveals at the end of Scream 6, but we also got a massive piece of character development from our Carpenter sisters, as we see Samantha Carpenter not only dispatch of Detective Bailey, but how she dispatches him is stuff of legend in my opinion. She grabs her dad's robe, she grabs her dad's mask that Detective Bailey had in his person, and she puts it on. Why this is significant is, as you can see to the bottom right here of the overlay with Samantha putting her hand on Billy's case. This was hinted at earlier in the film that Samantha might be embracing her true self. She could be going to the dark side. When Billy sits there and says to her in the hallucination, let's carve up some more motherfuckers. Team Loomis. It seems instead of going away from that, like you seen her trying to do in Scream 5, in this one, she is actually embracing it more. And in the end of this film, it comes full circle of showing that with her putting on his mask and his gown and stabbing Detective Bailey over 30 times. Guys, this was my favorite part of the entire movie. I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. Samantha was ruthless. She had the best kill in the entire movie. Now, I said I liked Detective Bailey as Ghostface because he was ruthless. He was aggressive. But Samantha Carpenter Loomis, guys, like, the born killer aspect is there for sure, and I love the fact that they are slowly but surely showing that she is embracing this side of herself. This is exactly what the ending of this movie definitely showed by having her put on Billy's mask and his robe, as well as telling Detective Bailey when he says, "Oh, what are you going to do? I'm a cop." You know what I mean? Like, trying to get himself out of it. She basically says the one who's still alive is the one they're going to believe. I love that piece of dialogue from Samantha Carpenter in the film. And another thing that this ending revealed as well is Tara's bloodlust. Guys, I don't know if you guys caught this when it was happening, when she was stabbing Ethan Landry, but you started to see Tara started to laugh and smile as if she was enjoying killing and stabbing Ethan. Guys, this is huge character development for both of our main characters. For the simple fact, there has been theories out there where fans think that both Carpenter sisters could be undercover Ghostface killers themselves, could be behind the whole mastermind fiasco and all that stuff. And at least in Scream 6, in my opinion, they definitely kind of teased that to a certain degree by having both of them basically embrace their inner killer. That's what this whole character development ending scene was about. Was both of these characters, both our main characters, not shying away from the killer that is within them. So again, I thought this ending scene was really great from Samantha Carpenter's character as well as Tara Carpenter's character, but especially for Samantha. We have all been speculating, will she go to the dark side? Will she at least somewhat hint at of an embracement of it? And definitely in this film, we definitely got a lot of hints, if not full on go, that Samantha Carpenter in the future could be a Ghostface killer. Now, I will talk about the exact ending where you see her drop Billy's mask and leave it in the side of the street. Obviously, a lot of us thought that seeing that mask in the middle of the street was possibly a sign, a hint that a Ghostface killer could get away. That turned out not to be the case. That turned out to be Sam just dropping her dad's mask on the ground and walking away from it. Now, you can make the argument that she's trying to walk away from it. She's sitting there saying, I'm putting it down, no more, I'm not doing this no more. I'm not going through this no more, and I'm not going to be like him. You can make that argument, but I will counter that argument with the way that she was portrayed in the final act of this scene, and the final ending part, with her putting on that costume and that mask. It would not surprise me if we see Samantha Carpenter in the future have her own Ghostface mask and costume. Just a thought I have about that ending scene. Could I turn out to be wrong? Sure, I was wrong about a couple things about this movie. But that ending scene, to me, where she drops the mask, does not rule out the possibility that Samantha Carpenter could be a Ghostface killer, a legit Ghostface killer, in future installments of the Scream franchise. We now move on to the post-credit scene explained, and I'm not going to even lie, I don't really have too much to say about this because it was what it was. What this was a joke by Radio Silence for the fans, basically saying, you have Mindy saying, not every movie has to have a post-credit scene. I get it, they were trying to basically play it as a joke against the fans for thinking that there was going to be some type of cliffhanger, there was maybe going to be some type of cameo by Nev Campbell or somebody else at the end of the post credits. I get that. I get that they were trying to joke with us and all that stuff, and I'm not hating on them for joking with us, but I am very disappointed that's the direction that they decided to go, because I felt like they could have just did so much better with that post credit scene. Give us something leading into Scream 7. So again, I get that they try to be different by not having that post credit scene, and they try to be funny about it, but I wasn't laughing. Okay, everyone, so now I'm going to talk about the pros and cons of Scream 6. Start off with the pros. The pros is that this movie was actually really good, in my opinion. I thought the storytelling, the pacing, everything was on point. Now, I know the fact that we got something of a mirroring of Scream 2 with the motive and the reveal. It was a parent who was obviously coming after Samantha, Richie's dad, kind of like an homage to Mrs. Loomis coming after Sydney in part 2. I know some of us fans did not want to see that because it would mirror Scream 2 to a T, almost exactly to a T. However, why it was acceptable for me is because they found ways to get different with a familiar motive. They try to get different around that by incorporating characters as Jason Carvey and his boyfriend Greg, by making Kirby Reed, our beloved, you know, returning character who we thought was dead, by turning her into a massive red herring. They did everything that, I don't want to say they didn't risk it all. They definitely didn't risk it all. But they definitely did try to get different to a decent degree. And I really appreciate that. And I appreciate the ways that they did get different. Having the three main Ghostface killers, having a total of 5 Ghostface killers overall. Yes, we did not see Greg kill anybody, but he was still going to be a Ghostface killer. He counts. Obviously, Jason as a Ghostface killer. We got a total of 5 killers in this movie, and possibly more once I release some more theory videos and all that stuff about what I think about that. But they did a lot of things different, especially with the opening scene. Revealing Ghostface within the first couple minutes. Basically having a Ghostface kill another Ghostface because they are not affiliated. The pacing, the setting in New York City. Now, I will say I wish there were more chase scenes, as the bodega chase scene was kind of underwhelming. However, the chase scenes were way better than they were in Scream 5. At least we got more chase scenes in this film. I will say that. Obviously, our character development, in my opinion, was great. I enjoyed each and every character in this film, even though I will say Mindy was kind of like the least of my favorite. That's only because of how she was written in to be more reserved, and I have no problem with that. Another thing that I liked about this film is the fact that they got deep into detail with the framing of Samantha. You had them dropping off her ID. You had them dropping off these old Ghostface killers' masks. Homaging Scream 3. They did. I love the fact that they tied in every single Scream film to this film, and they made it in an acceptable way that made sense of how Samantha connects to all these movies. So I definitely really enjoyed a lot of that stuff. I think this movie was really solid in structure. I know some might disagree with me, but you're entitled to. But for me, I like this movie a lot. I thought it was really well structured, really well paced. It was brutal. It was fun. It had some funny moments, like the moment when Gail's on the phone with Ghostface and she goes to star 69 him. And she's like, "Can you hold, please?" And Ghostface is like, "What?" I laughed my ass off. Probably the funniest moment in the movie, if you ask me. That's just my opinion, though. But again, I just feel like they did so many things right with this film that I'm not going to lie. I feel like it might be a little bit trickier in Scream 7 to up the ante, because we kind of expect in Scream 7 for them to kind of dial it down a little bit, especially with the brutality, the killings, and all that stuff. It remains to be seen whether we get, you know, even more loudness from Scream 7 than Scream 6 was, or if we do take a step back in tone. It remains to be seen. But again, I love the tone of this movie. I love damn near everything they did. Now, let's get to the cons. It's not really too many cons in this film. There's not too much that I didn't like in this film. However, if there is one glaring weakness that both Scream 5 and Scream 6 have done, is you reveal a Ghostface killer who claims they committed an act of violence against somebody that there's no way that they're capable of doing it. The believability. I talk about it all the time here on the channel. Believability. The believability of Quinn Bailey's Ghostface doing what she did to Gail's boyfriend is laughable, in my opinion. And it's the same thing with Amber Freeman. They keep having these Ghostface killers revealed where it's physically almost impossible for these said Ghostface killers to commit the crimes that they're claiming they commit. So, if there was one glaring weakness about 6, is that they did that same exact thing that they did with Amber Freeman's character. with Quinn Bailey's character. They had her claim a crime that, in my opinion, it is not fucking physically impossible for her to commit. Again, I will discuss why in later videos, but that was the biggest number one glaring thing for me in this film. And if there was anything else in this film that I really didn't like, per se, I would have to say it would maybe be Kirby Reed's character. Again, and I said it a little bit earlier, and I'm going to say it now. I really did not like Kirby's return into this film. I felt like this was definitely a rushed script to a degree. I felt like they tried to find a way to just shoot Kirby in and just make her as a massive red herring. And it's not saying that I don't like the fact or the idea of Kirby being Ghostface, but there's better ways you can do it, in my opinion. And I would have rather seen her be more of a motivator with the red herring tag attached to her. We didn't get that. She was just a straight up massive red herring. And I just, as a fan of that character, I just don't think that was the right direction to go. But outside of those two things that I just mentioned, I personally really can't find any cons that I seem to dislike about this movie outside of those two. Again, I thought this movie was really, really good. I gave it a solid 4.5. Or solid 4 out of 5 stars, in my opinion. You could go to 5 if you want. I gave it 4, and the only reason why I gave it 4 is because of that last part I just said, the whole believability thing. They did it again. They did the same thing in 5 that they did it in 6, that the same thing they did in 5. Having a Ghostface who is not physically capable to commit such a crime that they're claiming they commit. So that's why I can't give it 5 stars. But again, this was a really good installment to the franchise. I really enjoyed Scream 6, and I am really, really hyped to see what direction we are going to go in for Scream 7. And I'm even more hyped to do more videos talking about Scream 6 and some things that I caught in this film that we definitely have to conversate about. But okay, everyone, that is it for this video. Leave a comment in the comment section below and let me know your overall thoughts on Scream 6 if you have seen it. If you have not seen Scream 6 yet, then you might not want to watch this video. As you see in the thumbnail, this video does contain spoilers, so this might not be for you. However, if you do not mind being spoiled, hit me up in the comment section. Let me know your overall thoughts on Scream 6 from what you saw, or at least from what you heard. And give me the details. Did you guys like it? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Hit the comment section. I always love to conversate and engage with you all here in this wonderful horror community that we have growing here on YouTube. Once again, this is I Shot Him 6 Times YouTube horror movie channel. I'm your host and creator of the channel, Marcus. Be sure to follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Patreon. Thank you all for watching.